Thank you for your interest here at North Hills, where we are more than Sunday. If you have any questions or would like to know more about our ministries, you can always visit us online at north-hills.org. Now join us as Pastor James delivers his message.
So for the past few weeks, we've been in this series called #Trending. And if you want to know what's trending in the world today, well, it's the Olympics. The Olympics are these wonderful opportunity where we come together and we're united in spite of our differences around the country. There's a very contentious presidential race going on. There's racism. There's all of these things in the news, but for the next couple weeks, we get to be united, to be #USA in this great thing called the Olympics in Rio. I love the Olympics because they're all about this drive to be the best, the drive to win gold. And you know, it's funny when you think about the Olympics, you think about all of these events that people come together, they're competing in Rio. We often think about what happens in their event. We often think about watching them as they compete. But we don't see is all the preparation that went into getting there. And for many of these people, it wasn't like a couple weeks ago, they're like, man, I think I'm going to go do the Olympics. It was years of training. It was years of being dedicated to being the best you can be. It became an obsession for them where they lived and they breathed their sport. The Olympics is this amazing thing where it's like literally almost 24 hours a day that we get to watch these events because all the big events are during the day, but if you're an insomniac and you wake up at 3 a.m., you can watch a table tennis match, or you can watch fencing, or you can watch any of these other obscure things because it's all about all of these people coming together, being united as Team USA or Team France, and they are many different individuals, many different sports, many different events, but all together they are united as Team USA. And we watch it and we love it and we rally around our patriotic duty to watch the Olympics. Whether or not it's gymnastics or men's basketball or women's volleyball, whatever it is, all of these people were dedicated. They were obsessed with becoming Olympians. And everything led up to these events. And we think, man, we're so focused on the event. We're so focused on the sport that we forget there's so much more that goes into it. The events trend on Twitter. The events trend on Facebook. What doesn't trend is the hours waking up at 4:30 to get to the pool to swim 10 miles before they go to school. It's getting to the gymnastics gym. That doesn't trend. The hard work doesn't trend. What trends is when we see them on the world stage and we root for them as if they were our own children because we are united together as one. But the Olympics is more than just the events. It's everything that leads up to it. It's everything that leads up to it. And we have to think, going beyond that, we get to watch these amazing athletes compete in these world games to see their dreams come true, but we forget sometimes. For every Olympic dream that comes true, there's an Olympic dream, probably 10 or 100 Olympic dreams that is shattered because they didn't make it. And you have to think, was all that hard work, all that dedication they put in at the pool, on the gym, on the weights, on the court, was it for nothing? Of course not, because the dedication they put in, the hard work that they put in, all of this is about building character. It's about building life. It's about more than just the Olympics. It's about more than just the events because we learn how to live life through the things that we do and train for. You may have heard over the past couple of months, we've begun using this tagline that North Hills is more than Sunday. That we're more than just what happens here on Sunday morning. And for many of you, you get that. There's a school, there's a preschool that meets Monday through Friday, that we have events that meet on Saturdays. But what about going beyond that? What about those of you who don't come here Monday through Saturday. Do you realize that you are a part of that more than Sunday? Because you are, in a sense, just like Team USA, all these people gathered together, united as Team USA, you are Team North Hills. All of you are a part of this organization called North Hills, whether or not you're a member of the school, whether or not you go to the preschool or you're a parent. When you go out into the world to do your job, you are representative of Team North Hills. When you go out, it's like those individual jobs or events. Yeah, they're individual for you and you achieve them. But as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a car mechanic, as a whatever it is that you have as a job, that is your event that is a part of Team North Hills. And you give people a glimpse into what North Hills is all about by the way that you live your life. Not just on Sunday, but more than Sunday. And you go beyond that. It's not just about North Hills, it's about the entire family of God across the world, the universal church that gathers together. Everything that you do, you are a representative. And when you succeed, we all succeed. We all rejoice in the successes. That's why when we come together and have a baby dedication, that we don't just think, oh, that's great for them. We think that's great for us because we are all a part of the family that is North Hills. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, I'm a guest here today. I'm not a part of North Hills. Don't check out just yet because it's not just about North Hills. This applies to all of us because life is more than just the one day. The one thing that we are really looking forward to, that wedding, that first day of school, that for many of you will be the last first day of school. For many of you looking forward to that first job, that first paycheck. Maybe you're looking forward to that first kid. It's more than just the one day. Right before I went on vacation a couple weeks ago, I had the pleasure of officiating at a wedding for 2 youth group kids that I had many years ago. They were both in my youth group. One was a senior and a junior when I got to the church. And after years and years, they came together, they fell in love, and they decided to get married. And one of the amazing things about weddings is you come together and it's this huge celebration, but I think many of us know that it has to be more than just a wedding day for the wedding to actually succeed. It has to be more than that day. So when we come together as North Hills, we have to recognize that in order for us to succeed in life and succeed as a church, it has to be more than just one day. Today we're talking about hashtag North Hills, and for the last few weeks I asked all of you to engage with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and I asked you to tweet at us with the hashtag trending NHBC, and many of you did that, and I was so amazed as I saw people talking about sermons on Sunday mornings, tweeting out things that they learned. The youth did a P2 mission trip here in the Bay Area. Kids going to Chick-fil-A for Cow Day. North Hills Men's Breakfast. Suzanne Moreland feeling blessed. Then we have the soccer, Upward Soccer. More youth. We have, North Hills Pokemon is still trending. We have what's coming up, 40 years of North Hills. More than Sunday, try more than 1 year. 40 years. Because it's all about that. And one of the things that I thought about when I was watching some of these tweets and some of these Facebook pages, I noticed that a lot of you, the things that you posted were all really good things that you want to remember, the good things in life. The things that you're excited about, or the things that happen that you're like, man, that's awesome. I really want to post this. Nobody posted anything negative. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that we don't want to post the negative things online. We don't want to remember those things online. But we do have to remember the good times and the bad times. We have to remember because there's a lot that's tough in this world. Every 4 years we have the Olympics. And one of the reasons why we have the Olympics is because we want our wars to be fought on a basketball court, not on a battlefield. But we know that wars still happen. Tough times still come. And hopefully we'll remember the good times, we'll remember the victories, the gold medals, but we'll also remember the wars that we fought and the people that have given their lives for our freedom. We'll also remember the mistakes of our fathers so that we can live better in the future. The passage that we've been talking about over the last few weeks comes in Ephesians chapter 5, 13 through 17. Paul wrote this letter to the Ephesian church because he loved them, he cared for them, and he looked at the world around them and he saw that they were going to have some difficulties being Christians, being followers of Jesus, simply being who they were in that Roman world, if their lives wanted to be more than just Sunday. So he had this letter that he wrote to them to talk about ways that they could be better, ways that their lives could be glorifying to God, ways that their lives could bring glory to their church, and that they could be happy, fulfilled, even in the face of tragedy. In Ephesians chapter 5, 13 through 17, Paul writes, "But when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. Therefore it says, 'Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you.' Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." And the big idea of what we're talking about, what Paul's talking about, is that training for the big day is about more than just one day, but every day. Now you might wonder, well, what's the big day? Well, the big day is anything in your life where you are going to be tested. You know, for many Olympians, the big day is the day of the race. They get up, they have a routine. For somebody looking to get married, that big day is that wedding day. The big day may be the day you go in to the doctor to find out the results of a test. The big day may be when your child, for the first time in their lives, makes a really huge mistake and you have to know what to do with it. How are you going to discipline them? How are you going to encourage them and love them? The big day is any day in your life where you're going to be challenged. For Olympians, it's easy. They know when that big day is coming. But for most of us who will never be on that big stage, will never be in front of the thousands of cameras in the starting blocks ready to take off, our big day comes each and every day. But we don't know when it's going to happen. Could you imagine how much more interesting the Olympics would be if they were just random? You don't know when your race is, but you better be ready. You better be ready to get in that pool when they call your name. And you only have a few minutes to get ready. Actually, that would be absolute total chaos, but it would be fun to watch. But that's our lives. Whether or not we're Christians or not, our big day happens at a moment's notice. And each and every time that we have that big day, we need to be ready. So the question becomes, how can you be ready? How can you be ready for the big day? Well, Paul has some good instructions for us in this passage. The first thing Paul wants us to do is to remember. Now, some of you may think, remember what? Well, when you're an athlete, we can go beyond that to, you could be in a play where you have to remember lines. That's pretty easy. Maybe it's, you're going in for a test, and you have to remember what was taught in the class. Or maybe you're a musician, and you have to remember the notes that you're supposed to play. How are you going to do that? Well, it comes with practice. It comes with that dedication of over and over and over again, you are practicing. You ever notice that Olympians train for years? They don't just show up. Although I did hear a couple years ago, Michael Phelps decided like 6 months in that he was going to be an Olympian again, and he just started training then. That's not normal. Most people have to train for a very long time, and if you take 1 week off, you lost 6 months. We train so that we will remember. We study so that we will remember. We learn an instrument. We practice so that we will remember. In our jobs, we go to school. We go through training. Why? So that when that big day of testing comes, that big meeting or that big whatever it is in your life comes, you will remember what to do. People in the military know this. When you go into combat, what do they tell you? Remember your training. Because when it's in the heat of battle, you need to remember. Remember the good things in life. We have to remember those good things. Why? Because sometimes we have to remember those good times just to get through the bad times. But don't forget about the bad times. Don't just push them out. Use them. Some of the greatest training that we have in our lives is the failures that we pick ourselves up from. Why is it that our failures help us so much? Because we learn daily what not to do. You want to succeed? Learn to fail. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's just the way it is. Learn how to fail, but don't stay down. Remember what you did and do something differently. Remember the good things, remember the bad things. Paul talks about this in Ephesians 5:16. He says, make best use of the time because the days are evil. Now, the days might be evil, but we worship a God who is not, who is there for us. And even though the days are tough and they're challenging, we can remember the good things. Now, as followers of Jesus, we're called to remember a lot. In fact, in Scripture, one of the most frequently cited commands in all of the Old Testament and the New Testament is to remember. Remember. And what are we called to remember? We're called to remember the love, the faithfulness, and the goodness of God. Why is that so important? Well, because when we remember the faithfulness of God in the past, that will help us to believe that God will carry us through the present. It's so important for us to remember because it's so easy to forget. When we're going through a tough time, you're driving through a parking lot and you can't find a parking spot that's close to the front of the building. It's easy to think, why does God hate me? And then we remember, oh right, God wants me to get a little extra exercise. Training for that big event. But that's the point. We need to remember. We need to remember the goodness of God. We need to remember the failures in our lives. You know, even the times when we really mess up. Even the times when we mess up and we make a mess of our lives or a mess of our relationships. We have to remember those things. Believe me, when we mess up, other people remember it. So how do we get other people to forget our mess-ups? Pick ourselves up and do better next time. That's how you do it. You make up for it. When it comes to our relationship with God, we have to remember the most important thing, and that is that we are not worthy of Him. But to Him, that doesn't matter. Because it has nothing to do with who we are or what we've done, but has everything to do with who He is and what He has done. And the most important thing for us as followers of Jesus, and if you're not a believer, this is the most important thing for you to remember, is that 2,000 years ago, in spite of the fact that we weren't good enough, that we weren't worthy, God sent His Son to earth to live a perfect life, and even though He was perfect, He paid the penalty for our sins on the cross. That is the definition of something we should remember. We need to remember. But then we also need to rely. Rely on what? The world will tell you to rely on yourself. The world will tell you to rely on your own hard work, your own determination, your own giftedness, your own abilities. Now, in the Olympics, that still only gets you so far. Many people have relied on their own abilities and their own giftedness, and that didn't get them to the Olympics because they didn't have people around them to support and encourage them. So who do you rely on the Olympics? In anything, you have to have coaches. You have to have training partners. You have to have people that are pushing you when you want to quit. You have to have people that you can rely on that will come through for you, who aren't going to let you down. I remember this video of this Olympics probably a long time ago. This runner was running his event, and he was picked to win it. But halfway through his event, his hamstring snapped off the back of his leg. And any of you remember the person that came out, fought through the security to get to him, to help him finish the race? It was his father. And I remember thinking, man, I don't remember anything about that Olympics, but I remember that moment when that runner had somebody to rely on to finish that race. And that is one of the most beautiful moments in Olympic history. Who do you rely on? Because believe me, if it's yourself that you're relying on, that's only going to get you so far. You have to have other people to rely on. No one is an island. We have to have the support and encouragement of others. And it starts probably with our family. Can you rely on your family? What is family? We've talked about this in sermons before. Is family always biological? Of course not. Sometimes it's biological, but sometimes when we hear the word family, we have a negative feeling of it. So if we can't rely on our biological family, what family can we rely on? I want to believe that we can rely on North Hills, that we can rely on the family across the aisles. When I look out at this congregation up in the balcony down here, I think, man, we are so diverse. We have people from different cultures, different skin colors. We have people from really every tongue, tribe, and nation. Yet together we're united as one. You watch the Olympics, you see that, man, people even on each individual team, they are different ethnicities. I was watching today ping pong, and I didn't realize that a lot of the ping pong players, regardless of the country, are Asian. Whether I saw a Turkish player playing a Canadian player, and then I saw a Spanish player playing a American. They were all Asian. Because every tongue, tribe, and nation is a part of each individual team. It's not just one ethnicity, but it's all ethnicities gathered together as one. And that's what the church is supposed to be about. They say that Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, or in our case 10:30, is one of the most segregated hours in our nation, but not at North Hills. And I love that about this church, is that we are different, and we can rely on each other. We have to be able to rely on something bigger than ourselves. We have to be able to rely on others that have our back and support us. Rely on church members, people in the body. But more than that, we need to rely on God. We need to rely on the creator of the universe, who is so much bigger than all of us put together. Ephesians 5:17 says, "Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." The will of the Lord is for us to have people we can rely on in the church. That we can rely on God, that we can rely on our family. And we rely on the promises that are found in the Word of God. And then lastly, number 3, we need to react. Now, when we face life, there's a lot of things that are going to be thrown at us. There's a lot of things that are going to happen to us in life. There's going to be good things. There's going to be bad things. There's going to be times when you're really going to be tested on that big day. We're training for that big day, whatever that big day is for you. But the question is, when that time comes, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to react positively, or are you going to react negatively? When that person says that comment to you that really drives you mad, when that person says that thing to you that really just upsets you, how are you going to react to that? When something happens at work that maybe you lose your job, how are you going to react? When you fail, how are you going to react? And sometimes one of the biggest challenges in life is what happens when we actually succeed. How are you going to react to success? Here's what happens a lot of times when we succeed. We forget. Going back to number 1, we need to remember. But we forget something really big when we succeed in life. When we succeed at that task, we forget about the people that we had to rely on through that challenge. And we take all of the credit. We take all of the glory, and we forget about the people that helped us get there. We say, I was so good, I'm the one who did it. I did it all on my own, and we forget that nobody has ever done anything really on their own. We've always had the support and encouragement of people around us who pushed us, to be the best that they could be. How are you going to react when things go good? How are you going to react when that dream is dashed? Are you going to look at all that time, that preparation, that dedication? Are you going to look at all those things in your life that you thought, man, I put everything into this and now it was wasted because now the dream is over? Or are you going to say, you know what? I set out to achieve something, I didn't quite make it. But you know what? It was worth it because now all the skills, all the determination that I learned through this hard process, I can put into something else. I just always love those commercials during college football games where it talks about the NCAA and they said, millions of NCAA athletes are going pro in something other than sports. And that's the truth because so many athletes will never be the top of their sport. But all of that hard work, all of that character building, that integrity issues, all of that helps us get further in life. How are you going to react? There's another big thing about sports that we hear all the time is that drive to be good or to be the best causes us sometimes to compromise our integrity, to compromise our ethics, to break rules and to cheat to get ahead. It happens all the time. That person that wins gold and you find out later, man, that guy cheated. And they strip him of the gold medal. And you know what's funny about that is that guy who gets that gold medal after cheated, I'm willing to bet that it doesn't feel the same. Because to me, it's not about getting the rewards, it's about crossing the finish line first. And that was stolen from him by somebody who cheated. You think about in your own life. Think about those times. That could be your big day. That could be the moment in your life where you are tempted. You are tempted to cheat. You're tempted to compromise your values and your integrity in order to get ahead. You're tempted. And sometimes a lot of people get away with it. A lot of times people, they cheat and they get away with it and nobody ever finds out. But it eats away at you. And you know when you've cheated that you don't deserve what you've gotten. And it eats at you. Which is why so many of these people later on finally just give up and confess. Because you know in your heart that you didn't deserve it. You didn't earn it. You didn't get it. You cheated. And while the world may not know, You do. So how are you going to react when that moment comes? When you're tempted to compromise your integrity for a little bit of that glory, a little bit of that victory? Are you going to have the integrity to react and say, you know what? I'm going to compete according to the rules. I'm not going to cheat at work. I'm not going to step over people. I'm not going to compromise myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it all I have. I'm going to do everything within my power to be as good as I can be. And you know what? If that's not good enough for somebody else, I recognize that that will be good enough for me. I'll sleep better at night. And you know what? God will honor that. So many people think that you have to come in first, but you don't. You know, I always think about this. Do the people who come in last place in the Olympics feel like failures? Think about all the people that never even make it to the Olympics. I remember growing up swimming, and I remember thinking, man, I'll be an Olympian one day. And I remember after one season of backstroke, I'm like, I'm done with that. I had other more important things to do than get up at 4:30 every morning and go to the pool and swim. But wouldn't it be cool just once to come in last place in the Olympics? Coming in last place in the Olympics is still one of the best athletes in the world. It's so cool to think about all the things that we do well that we don't even realize it, simply because we're not the best. We always think, well, if I'm not the best, then I'm not good enough. Well, the reality is that no matter, forget about being the best. Be the best that you can be. Do it with integrity. And how do you do that? You remember what you've been training for. Whether or not it's for that big meeting, that test, that concert, or maybe it's a sporting event, whatever it is, remember your training, remember the things that you've put in, remember the things that you've sacrificed in order to get there. Rely on people. Rely on others around you so that you can remember that you're not alone. Rely on those people. And then react. And some of the things, I think a lot of times we forget to say thank you to the people we've relied on. And the first thing that we should probably do when we succeed, or maybe even not succeed, but we should always thank the people that we've relied on. A lot of times it starts with our parents, and we don't realize that our parents had such a huge impact on us early on in our lives, and we forget to thank them, and sometimes we forget until it's too late. Always say thank you. Always say thank you to the people that helped you get to where you're going to go. You know, there's a lot of people, when they go into a meeting, they're okay with pushing somebody else into the spotlight. They're okay with pushing somebody else into the forefront because they see something in that person. They see something that is good. They see something that's genuine, and they want to see them succeed. These are mentors in our lives. These mentors that push us to be the best that we can be. And they are okay with not being in the spotlight. Because when they see you succeed, they themselves feel as though they've accomplished something. But don't ever forget to thank them. Thank them for what they have done. I think about Paul in his letters to the Ephesian churches, and I think about all these other people. Like, the Bible says that Paul was not a very gifted speaker, that he was kind of boring, and at one point in his life, a little boy was sitting in a window, and Paul was so boring, he fell out onto the ground. But Paul invested in other people. Paul invested in this guy named Timothy, a younger man who he invested in, who he saw something in, and he pushed him into the spotlight in those churches. There was a man named Titus that Paul said, I see something in you. And he pushed him into the spotlight. And Timothy and Titus could rely on Paul at any moment. He wrote him letters. He corrected them. He was there for encouragement. He was there for prayer. He was there for them. And I think about the people in my life who have always encouraged me and pushed me to be the best. You know, I think about Pastor Bill. Pastor Bill pushes me to be the best that I can be. He invests in me, and he's okay with pushing me into the spotlight. And I love that about him. We all have that person in our lives that pushes us. How are we going to react to them? When we succeed, are we going to say it was me, or are we going to remember those people? Life is all about those little, big days that we encounter. When we talk about being a follower of Jesus, bringing it back to North Hills, it's each and everything that we do is not just a reflection of you. It's a reflection of all of us. We all play a part in each other's lives, and we have to see each other as that way. We have to look into each other's eyes as the body of Christ, as #North Hills, and we have to remember that we exist together. We are united together, and we have to encourage one another. We have to support one another. And that each individual success that we have in our lives is a reflection of all of us. So when you see somebody in this church get a promotion, celebrate with them, encourage them. Don't get jealous that you didn't get a promotion. When you see somebody in this church who is having a child, be excited for them, celebrate with them. I think about a lot of times there are people in my life that I know who can't have children. And it's so easy sometimes to be bitter when you see somebody else who has a child. Sometimes there are people who get bitter when another person gets married because they haven't gotten married yet. They haven't found that one. How are you going to react in that moment? Can you be encouraging? Can you be celebratory with that person even when you are yourself struggling? We celebrate each other's victories. We remember each other. In our prayers, we pray for each other. We remember that we are all part of Team North Hills. Sometimes just picking up the phone and calling somebody that you know is struggling and ask them how they're doing. Or when you see somebody, a lot of times Facebook opens our eyes to these things that happen in other people's lives, and we see, oh man, that person really, they're struggling right now. I'm going to call them, and I'm going to support them and encourage them. I'm going to go see them. I'm going to go take them out to lunch. I'm going to go take them out to coffee. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to bear their burdens. It's all about remembering each other, relying on each other, and then reacting positively to each other. That's what being a follower of Jesus and being a member of the body of Christ is all about. Now, I recognize that some people, your guests here today, you don't know what this church is all about. You may not be a follower of Jesus at all, and you're thinking, I've never been able to rely on God at all. My challenge to you is to know that you can rely on God. My challenge to you as a guest is to believe that you can rely on this church, this North Hills. That if you choose to be a part of this North Hills, that you, just like Eric and Rebecca with the dedication, that they can rely on us to help them when things get tough. When their child needs mentors, needs youth ministry or children's ministry, they can rely on us to help them. Not to take the responsibility of being a parent, but that we can help, we can come alongside them. And if you're here today and you're not a follower of Jesus and you're like, I'm not ready to make that decision, but I like what's going on, I like what I see, you can rely on us to come alongside of you, to not pressure you, to not guilt you, but you can rely on us to tell you the truth, to love you, to encourage you, to pray for you, and when you are ready, we will celebrate with you. And it will be awesome. So as we come to this time of reflection, I ask that you think about this question. What do you need to live more than Sunday? What do you need from North Hills to live more than Sunday? What big days are you training for that you need help to live beyond just that? How are you going to lead up to it? What do you need? Maybe for many of you, it's making that decision that you are going to give your life over to Jesus. Maybe you don't know what all that means, but you're willing to make that decision to rely on Jesus. Maybe, like the Kinsels, you want to come and you want to join North Hills, and you want to be a part of this, and you want to know that you can rely on a church to bear your burdens, to encourage you, and to support you when things in life happen. What do you need that's going to help you remember? What do you need that's going to help you rely? And what do you need that's going to help you to react to life positively? The band will play, and as we do in this time of reflection, take this opportunity to go before God to pray. Maybe you want to come up before on the steps and pray. Maybe you want to go out and pray with somebody in the hall. Grab somebody. What big days are coming up for you that you need some help with, some training? As we go to God now, take this time to reflect.